Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you back to the Dynamic Decisions podcast, where we explore the strategies that drive successful decision-making in the world of business. Why? Because the best decisions come from great conversations. I'm your host, Teasha Cable, CEO of C Model Data, and today we have an awesome guest who is revolutionizing the tech hiring landscape. His name is Teja, and he is co-founder and CEO of Gun.io. Teja has built Gun.io into a premier talent matching platform that connects companies with world-class software developers through rigorous vetting and personalized matching. Under his leadership, they have achieved remarkable milestones, including securing venture capital investment, also establishing a 91% placement rate, and building a platform that serves companies ranging from startups to Fortune 500 companies. They have revolutionized the tech hiring space and are really creating hiring experiences that are second to none. Welcome to the show. I want to thank you so much for being here. Can you start by telling us how much you've transformed the tech hiring landscape and more about your journey as a founder and CEO?
Yeah, totally. And thank you so much, Teasha, for that wonderful intro. It's funny to look back and yeah, Fortune 50s even, which is crazy. So let's see. I think it's interesting. So we're talking about decisions today, and I would say what's unique about our business is the value of our company and our brand basically comes down to the decisions that the developers that we put in companies make. So the day-to-day individual decisions to drive product value, to build cool things that actually improve revenue, improve margin, add customer value at our client companies, that is the fundamental brand promise of our company. And so we're a labor market. I think what's unique against other staffing firms or marketplaces is that for us, vetting and matching is not just about understanding, hey, is this person good? But our vetting process includes how developers actually perform on projects, which is a really large corpus of work. And so that feeds back into matching, that feeds back into the way that we think about performance and potential performance on any client accounts. And so, yeah, it's I think that the best way to find out if somebody's good is to work with them for a little bit. And then because everybody can interview really well. It's about the quality of their decision making that makes somebody great for your org or not. How we got started, nothing too novel, honestly. I think my friends and I, co-founders, we sort of came together. We saw an opportunity broadly in hiring elite developers. That's kind of how we got our start, because the existing solutions basically worked on a spray and pray model. Go to a recruiter, you go to a job board, and you get a bunch of resumes or a bunch of supply for whatever rec, which is recruiting parlance, whatever rec that you submit to them. And so that's not how we operate. We found like a clear opportunity to be like, hey, if you're a hiring manager, if you're a CEO, if you're a CTO, you want to speak to a filtered list of only the best people. You want the recruiter to know your company, know your culture, know your technical standards. That's kind of how we got our start. Since then, we've just kind of kept doing the same thing.
You actually answered my first question in doing that, because I was going to ask you, but you answered it. So let me tell the audience what you actually answered. You just told us what you believe is the most critical element for companies to succeed when they're trying to find and hire top-tier software engineering talent, especially in this very competitive market where technical skills are really at a premium. So it goes beyond just what happens in the interview, goes beyond whether or not they can just do coding, but there's all these other skills that you're adding and thinking about in the mix. And then you just gave advice to the actual companies themselves on how to think about that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, anybody can game an interview. You can literally prompt an AI model to give you the right answers live. And there's so many stories of people doing that during interviews. You can see the reflection on somebody's screen. And so you give somebody a take-home test, you could easily game that. So the real standard of performance is the quality of their work, the quality of their decisions when they're in your org.
My goodness, I'm selling that right there. The quality of other people's decisions when they're at work. That's good stuff. So
that's your company.
That's it.
Your company is everybody in your org making good decisions without your direct input. That's how you get leverage. And so that's it.
Everybody come get you some C model based on that. No,
That's it.
just kidding. That's not the purpose of this, of what we're doing here.
They'll always be closing. That's what it's about.
Always be closing. You're right. So you've really achieved some great recognition. I know that raising venture capital isn't easy, nor is it it's not for everybody either, but it's also not really easy. And you've done some stuff, like you've got a platform you've built that delivers these matches typically within 13 days, and you've got rigorous vetting standards. It takes people a much longer time on their own to hire people. I'd love for you to share some of your insights on how important it is to build hiring solutions that actually understand both the developer and the company needs. Are there strategic decisions that you're making? Are there types of strategic decisions that you've made at this point that really impact how these companies access world-class talent from these developers, but then making sure that a company is in position to compensate them well and treat them well?
That's a great question, and there's a lot there. In our industry, we're so data driven. Let's say in the tech industry, we love data, we love numbers, we love things that like clearly ladder up to the P&L in terms of impact. One of the things that's difficult about hiring is that all of your inputs are basically probabilistic. The entire hiring process is a bet. It's a bet because midway through somebody can change their mind. Company can change their mind. They're in a different mode. They gotta, okay, now we're in a cost savings mode. Developer can change their mind. Hey, my friend is making X amount of money. I also want that. We want to send our kid to this school, so I need a little bit more. Things like that. Like people are human, and so things change. It's not like you're shipping freight where like you need to find the most efficient path from point A to point B, and the goods are not going to have an opinion on getting there. They're just going to be shipped. And okay, yeah, maybe you got some pirates and different weather patterns, but whatever, you can model these relatively well. So, or at least well in advance. Maybe not with weather, but certainly with like pirates and stuff. But in hiring, it's like somebody can just wake up one day and be like, nope, I'm not taking this job. I want a little bit more. A company's like, actually, no, we're totally changing the job description. So I think that's number one, is like recognizing that like there's inherent variability and uncertainty in all of your inputs. And so how do you actually make good matches when the entire business you're in is probabilistic? You're making a bet, company's making a bet, that the developer's making a bet that this is a good company for me. That's ground truth. And then you engineer the sort of systems on top of that. But I think good decisions start with understanding what game you're actually playing. Are you playing poker or chess? Right? Right. But even chess has a finite number of possible solutions, right? Maybe the human brain can't conceive them.
Are you playing tic-tac-toe?
100%, even easier, right? Poker, like you don't know because you have human psychology in the mix, right?
Right,
What the numbers tell you from a card counting perspective, based on who you're playing against, that person may have an insane risk tolerance, and
right.
so whatever math you're thinking about may not be the right move to win that pot. And so that's more like hiring. It's more like hiring. It's all psychology. There's some quant, some data you can look at. But I think a lot of recruiters, a lot of staffing people, if they treat this like a pure like funnel, I think you sort of make some categorical errors, honestly. And so, also like how many times as hirers have we like hired somebody and we're like, this person looked great on paper? I think that's number one. Then I think how we kind of engineered a system around that required bringing in smarter than me people and letting them run. And on venture capital, I would say it is hard. It's hard in the sense that you have to challenge yourself, as I'm sure you know, and like you've talked to many successful people, very accomplished people building companies. And the interesting thing is building a good business is different than building a business, I think, that is venture backable.
Come on, say it again. Say it
You
again for
know,
them. Yes,
and yeah, if you're working backwards from, even as a founder or as a business owner or as a CEO, what is better for you? That depends on lifestyle. That depends on so many other things. Venture capital is something that you take only because you have a really freaking big vision that
that's
you
right.
cannot finance through your current cash flow. capability or debt. That's
Come
it.
on.
And you got a really clear ROI on the money that you're taking. Or I mean about as clear as you can be. You know what I mean?
Right. It's all assumptions, but you got some good solid ones, right? And you see signals that go with it
100%.
too.
I mean, it's funny. This morning I was even talking to my wife, and it's like the interesting thing is when you're doing sales, you got to think about what is in it for the other person. And so the only way I think like a fund is going to write you a check is if they can clearly see a pathway to where the business can become significantly more valuable, which means that in today's raising conversation, you're selling the promise of what it can become later. And they're thinking, okay, does that make sense?
Right. Do I believe you or not? That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a business owner that's growing the traditional way out of cash flow, you can kind of take it one step at a time, which is nice, right? Because there's a clarity and a purity in that where you're okay, if I just do the same thing for more customers or do more for the current customers, I grow. I'm going to worry about anything else.
That's
That's
right.
cool too. There's elegance in that for sure.
I wholeheartedly 100% agree. So you have developed a very unique approach to vetting that includes these algorithmic screenings, background reviews, live technical interviews. Those are conducted by senior developers. When you're making these high stakes decisions about platform features and matching algorithms that actually serve everybody from early stage startups to Fortune 500 companies, do you have a framework that you use for ensuring that you deliver both the technical rigor and the human touch that successful tech hiring actually demands?
Yeah, in terms of like our vetting process, so to speak. Yeah, totally. It's sort of like the simplest way to boil it down is probably something like at the person level, we look at things that make a person cool and easy to work with. Can they communicate well? Do they have a high ownership mentality? Are they reliable? Those are the things that we look for from a culture standpoint, from a communication standpoint, what the platform kind of does. And then from a technical standpoint, we look at technical capability. Does it match with what they say that they can do, basically? But then the interesting piece is that, like, that is basically the starting point. Like, and it's a composite of different inputs, but it's a starting point. Then you have to kind of ongoing make sure that these things stay true over time across clients, over time with a client, things like that. Because as you know, people change. They may enter into seasons where, hey, it's not the right fit for a company. And that's not anybody's fault. That's just human beings. And so how do we then think about that in the context of continuing to drive value for organizations? That I think is actually like the very awesome piece is that
Mhm.
like we try to account for that in the vetting and then continually try to refine the way that people get delivered and they then deliver for the client organizations. A good system learns from itself, successes and failures.
What's hard? What's difficult in this process?
I will tell you that probably like thinking about sourcing is one of the most intellectually difficult things that I've done in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, which is fun. It's fun because so much of business is actually kind of like you just like kind of work harder and like right, like, and you kind of just like are nice to people and like things kind of work out for real. But some problems in business are like a little bit more challenging. This to me is like one of them. I would say the most challenging thing is like realizing that good good sourcing, good fulfillment, good delivery of people, good hiring is fundamentally both a systems design question, but also like a human psychology question. Because there's so much bias in hiring. You've seen that name study about different names, how they impact basically ability to get an interview or not. That's psychology. It's nothing to do with systems design. Embedded bias, things like that. And so unpacking all of that requires not just an engineering mindset, but a sales and human psychology mindset. So it's super layered. That's what makes it hard, but that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it challenging.
That's what also makes it valuable. If everyone just solves the easiest of the problems, then that we're not really creating unique value. We start to create that unique value when we dig in and solve the hardest of the challenges. So at your core is this. So this part of sourcing and that thing that's difficult is at the core of some of the value that you bring to the market, which is what makes you special, right? Because you're willing to dig in and go through the processes to do it. So I find people a lot of times want the easier stuff, but what's unique in that?
100%. Like anybody can go and build something that's, hey, take some tags, match them to things with other tags. But the more challenging thing is, I think, building a system that continues to surface the right dimensions that actually predict success. So that's what's valuable for companies, for CEOs like yourself. That's what's important, right?
Absolutely. Hey, for our audience, this is for you. I want you to think about your experiences with hiring technical talent or finding meaningful development work. What decisions have you made about building versus buying technical expertise that have significantly impacted your product development or your career trajectory? Share your thoughts with us on LinkedIn or other social media using Dynamic Decisions Podcast. I want to ask you a question about your leadership. Are there any particular strategies that you've deployed that you believe really, really build the collaboration engine in your company?
That's a great question, and one that I'm really excited to answer, honestly. I would say my favorite thing about leadership is I love defining a problem and then having really smart colleagues go and figure out how to solve it. I think if you're having a human conversation, that is good for relationship building. That is good for hanging out, building rapport. It's good for, quick solving a problem, but really deep thinking, I think you got to crystallize it, write it down, create a recommendation. And so our culture is a memo culture, not unique to us, very obviously. Many companies do this. But I love having our team be like, hey, here's a problem. Go write a strategy doc, go write a recommended approach. So that's what we like to do. And better still is when the team themselves identify problems or choke points or gaps and goes and writes a memo that I can quickly look at and say, yep, this looks good. The thinking is on point. What do you need to get this done? That's my favorite style of leadership. Sometimes in stress moments, we all default to being highly prescriptive, but that's a human response too, right? It's like you're operating under a lot of pressure. You have all the context. Nobody in the company has the full layered context to the extent that the senior most people do. And so you're just kind of tempted to be like, hey, here's the call. This is what I want done. Go do it. Here's your deadline. I think that is difficult to scale. It's not that it's ineffective. It's that you eventually tap out based on your energy levels and your bandwidth. And so you can be a super genius and you can have a ton of energy, but even then you hit a ceiling. So that's the difficult thing. But having really good people, you don't hit ceilings, right?
So there's your first really good decision is good people, so that you can have really time and place for certain types of decisions. You really don't give yourself the option if you don't have the right team. So I always say one of your good early decisions is who's that initial set of people around you. And then your later decisions, are those the same set of people that I need right now in order to navigate the stage that you're at? All right, here's my most favorite part of this podcast is I get to take you through a persona exercise.
Awesome.
So I am going to ask you different questions that represent different decision-making approaches. And after each one of them, you're going to tell me how much asking the questions that way resonate with how you actually approach decisions. And you're going to give those answers to me on a scale of 0 to 100%. But here's the thing. Across the 4 persona, you get a total of 100%. Does this make sense?
I think so. Yep.
Okay. So 0 to 100% for each, but you only get 100% total across all 4.
Gotcha. Okay. So that means I can only go up to 25 on a per question basis, or?
Well, you don't have to limit yourself, but just know that if you go to 50, that means you only got 50 left for all other 3 questions.
Interesting. Okay.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Got it? Okay, here we go. Here's the first one. The first one is called the feeler. It's a values-driven leader. This persona prioritizes alignment with core values and mission, often weighing the human impact and cultural fit of decisions alongside business metrics. Here's how they ask questions. When I'm facing a major platform or business decision, I ask myself, does this align with our mission to create meaningful connections between talented developers and companies that will value their expertise? Even if a more profitable feature might have favor with larger enterprise clients, I need to feel confident that we're truly enabling both developers and companies of all sizes to find success through quality matches that drive career growth and business innovation. How much of you resonates with that approach?
I'd say I'll give that one a 20.
All right. So you are 20% feeler as of now. Okay, you ready? Ready for the next one? Anything you want to add? Is there any why there?
Yeah, I think in many ways, business is a team sport, and I'm very big on people. I think good people make all the difference between a phenomenal company and not. But as you say, you may need different people for different arcs of the company, and there's a two-way kind of relationship there for sure. So I think it's 20%
Okay.
for me.
Here's your next one. It's called the planner. This is the strategic visionary. This persona focuses on long-term implications and future-proofing decisions, always thinking several moves ahead and considering multiple scenarios. When I'm making strategic decisions about Gun.io's platform evolution or market positioning, I ask myself, what are the long-term implications of this choice for the tech hiring industry, specifically over the next 5 to 10 years? I need to map out how remote work trends, AI adoption and hiring, and changing developer career expectations will evolve across different industry sectors. This will ensure that our platform capabilities and business model position us for multiple possible futures in an increasingly competitive marketplace. How much is that?
40%.
40% planner.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit. Say something.
That resonates. That's
Okay.
exactly how I think. Every decision in the company, I try to think about long-term implications. What does this mean? Does this change our long-term strategy? Does it confirm? How strong is the signal? How much should I weigh it? All that. Yeah,
That's
very highly
good.
resonant.
Okay, here's number 3. It's called the counter. This is the challenger of assumptions. This persona naturally questions conventional wisdom and looks for contrarian opportunities, often finding success when zigging when others are zagging. When evaluating new platform capabilities or market opportunities, I ask myself, what assumptions are we making about tech hiring and talent matching that might be fundamentally wrong? What is everyone else in the staffing and recruiting space doing that we should question? I tend to dig into why certain hiring processes or marketplace models work a certain way and whether there's a more efficient, innovative approach that the industry isn't seeing, especially given our unique position focusing specifically on high quality technical talent with rigorous vetting.
That's 20% for sure.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Why?
I want to give myself optionality in case the fourth one is good.
That's good. That's really good and makes sense.
Yep.
I actually think you're going to love this one. Let's
Okay,
see.
cool.
This one is called the data driver,
Cool.
evidence-based
Yeah.
decision maker.
Yep.
This persona relies heavily on metrics, analytics, and concrete evidence to validate decisions, preferring proof over intuition. So before making important decisions about platform development or market expansion or feature prioritization, ask myself, what does our performance data actually tell us about placement success rates, developer satisfaction scores, and client retention across different engagement types or different industry verticals? I want to see concrete analytics on everything from our 91% placement rate and time to hire metrics to developer earning progression and client project success that validate or contradict our strategic instincts about where to invest our resources next. Boom.
Yep. Yeah, that's high. That's high. But I got 20% left, so I'll go with 20%. That's high. But it's about as high as like future casting. I mean, I would say for me. The interesting
Okay.
thing is as I've actually matured, I would say, as my team is more metrics driven, I get to be less metrics driven.
Come on,
Which
say it.
is
Yeah.
nice. Your team has to be metrics driven. but sometimes truth and reality live beyond metrics. But if your whole team operates that way, you can't really grow a business. But you need that interplay, right? Because often what you're trying to invent, go and do, like lives in a space where like you can't prove it yet. It's a belief-based bet. But your
That's
team,
right.
like, if your CFO is, I believe that our numbers are good, you're like, what are we talking about? What? That's not your job, sir. So yeah, your job is you show me cash flow, cash balance, the metrics, right? I'm the belief person, right? And so yeah, so you need that interplay. You need that interplay. Yeah.
So I'm seeing a pattern with some of the best leaders that I'm talking to, right, around this idea that I can be the belief person, and I have other people on my team who might even be the assumption
Yep.
challenger, right? Someone
Yep.
else is going to be that person in the room when we're working together, right? So kind of starts to tell you how to build your team. Okay, thank you for that. So you are 20% feeler, even though I think you probably want to adjust that a little bit,
That's fair.
right?
Yeah.
30% planner,
Yeah.
20% counter. You probably want to adjust that one too. And then 20% data driver. You would probably take 10% off of the other two and
Yeah.
up, right? And so you
Yeah.
can be 40% on
Yeah.
data driver.
Yeah.
But that's the exercise. Isn't that fun? I just kind of love
That's a
doing
lot of
that.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice. It gives me insight into my own psyche too. And you're so right. It's your strengths and your weaknesses are really important to know because that's how you got to build your team, And then that's how your team needs to build their team, right?
That's come on. Yeah. Cascaded. Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to wrap this conversation up, but I have a question for you. All right. So you have been working hard and congratulations on all of the success to this point for gun.io. You're leading as a tech hiring platform. You've secured your investment. You've helped thousands of developers and companies to find success through your quality matching. If you could give one piece of advice to an aspiring leader in the tech industry, particularly those that are looking to innovate in the talent and hiring space, what would you say?
Yeah, awesome question. I'd say most what problems are who problems. And it's hard because it's not obvious. It's psychological. There's a lot of emotion wrapped up in who, and it's unfortunately not something that is like a very clear answer. But most of the time when you're frustrated about something, it's because you don't have the right people in the org. And it's hard. It's hard to say, right? And that doesn't mean you got to let anybody go. It just means you got to bring in people who know how to do the thing that you're trying to do. That's it. Or advisors or investors or anybody. It's a network question, right? It's a right. And even who can be sales targets. Doesn't have to be just people in your company. But most what problems in business are who problems.
Come on. What problems are who problems? I hope that y'all caught that wonderful advice. Teja, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show. I really believe that you're going to transform the space that you're in, and your vision for really connecting these developers with these meaningful opportunities is inspirational. And I'm rooting for you, knowing that you're going to be successful. So this is really awesome. Can you share with our listeners where they can learn more about you and Gun.io?
Yeah, totally. You can go to gun.io on the internet. That's our company. Or you can go to my LinkedIn. You can just search me, TejaYenamandra on LinkedIn. You can just ping me. That's it. It's probably the two best ways to reach me.
Fantastic. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Remember, the best decisions come from great conversations. If you've enjoyed this episode, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, share it with your network. Let's keep the conversation going on social media using Dynamic Decisions Podcast. And until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and keep leading with purpose.